Hello, Hathorians. Welcome back for another episode of Leadership Forum. This time we have Marcelo here, the man of the hour. How are you doing, Marcelo?
Hi, Andres. I'm very well, thanks. And you?
Great. I can see you're building brick by brick back there.
Yeah, just like Nanos. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, talk to you, and talk to our community. So, yeah, it's my pleasure a lot.
It's great to have you here, and people have loved the Leadership Forum. It's a glimpse at what happens in the experience behind all the building. So, what better than to have it from uh, the man himself?
Yeah, I saw that Jan did great last time, so I hope I can do it great as well.
He set the bar high, right?
Yeah, exactly. He did so great that I'm not sure if I'll get there. I'll be below the bar.
Well, I'm sure people will love to see you here as well. And I do actually want to kick off with first question. Halloween's coming up, so I'm wondering if you're going to be dressing as a bull or a bear.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, right? Because when Hathor started, we were like in a bear market, and this kind of market situation, the cycles, they are so common in crypto that I don't know. I'm afraid that I'm used to it, and the whole company is used to it. We are all used to it, so it doesn't affect at all what you're building. We trust in our long-term goals and everything that we're doing. In fact, I'm pretty excited because we have more and more people joining Hathor, uh, uh, and our team is really great, and we keep working like just like before. Nothing really changed, so we are really excited and we are really committed to deliver uh, uh, um, a good technology and a good blockchain solution for builders. So yeah, I mean, even though the market comes and goes, like it changes a lot, and it's something that we cannot control, and it definitely does not affect our motivation or our goals. We have like a pretty clear view of what we're building here.
Right, exactly. And that's something we try to remind people all the time, when most people are focusing on the short term. You can lose sight of the bigger picture when you're looking at the short term. And the short term is just cycles, that happens, and there's lots of factors happening there. But we try to keep people's focus on being excited of the usability, right? And the builder's experience and the user's experience, and it's really important to underline that. So I guess it won't be a bull or a bear; it will be something different.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that the mood changes. So a lot of people, I don't know, they are driven by these changes. But yeah, it's not something that affects us. And as I told you, it's something that we're used to. It's not something new. It's something that has happened many times before, and we know how it goes. So yeah, what we have to do is just keep building, keep delivering for our community, for the use cases, for the exchanges, for the companies, for the industries, and the market. Some point in time, it will get back. So it's just, in my perspective, it's just like something. It's a cycle. Then a new bear market will book, a new bull market will come, and then a new bear market again. And how that's how the word goes. It's not something that we can control really.
Yeah, it could be super counterproductive to be trying to rush things to catch a wave or something like that. So, you know, uh,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's really hard to time the market, right? So you never know when it's gonna change, but yeah, that's why it doesn't affect us.
exactly. We're not interested in catching falling knives here. Most importantly, we're focused on building things right, testing them right, and making sure they work very well, so that when people have them on their hands, they can do the best with the technology. Speaking of that, Nano Contracts Testnet just recently came out, and you've had time to be able to play with it. And you mentioned the construction of blueprints behind nano contracts. So I have the question of, what are the blueprints from nano contracts that have been developed so far, and if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when you go into Nano, it's completely aligned with our view of the blockchains. We are bringing like simplification to the table, and we're doing as we did before, and as we, I'd say, always do, which is we build silently. Building is like a tough game. Things change, we adapt, we have to learn. But yeah, regarding specifically Nano, we are pretty good in the development of it. Yeah, I recently launched a private network where we are running some tests, and I've used it myself. We've been testing a lot with the betting blueprints, where we have like a group betting, you have Oracle and those kind of stuff, and it's really nice to see it working. It's really a pleasure to watch it work nicely. Uh, uh, um, we are also integrating with our wallets. So far, I've only used the desktop wallet, the integration there, and it works really nice. So I can create a new Nano contract out of a blueprint. Yeah, I guess I have to take some steps back, right? So how will Nano work? I guess that's a very good question, and I don't want to dive deep into the technical aspects of it, but differently. Right now, differently from Ethereum or other EVM compatible blockchains, nano contracts will not be like the Nano itself. They're not like a software, a piece of software. The blueprints are. So blueprints are like patterns, are like contracts already developed, where anyone can create a Nano out of it. So if you trust the blueprint, you can trust the Nano, because the code is that the blueprint is not that the Nano. The Nano is an instance of a blueprint. So anyone can go to the network, and of course, it's not published right now, but anyone can go to our private network and can create a Nano contract out of a blueprint. So you pick a blueprint. Currently, we are playing with a betting, but we are also developing a liquidity pool and some others. We're still discussing which one will come first, how we're going to deploy them into the network when it goes live. But then anyone can pick a blueprint and create a nanos out of them. That's how it will work. There are some interesting questions there. Is it possible for someone? How can anyone create a blueprint? That's a really good question. And right now, for the first phase that we're testing, blueprints are part of the VU nodes. So anyone can run a private network with new blueprints, but for mainnet, we would have to put blueprints into the code and deploy a new version of the VU node. We are still discussing whether we will allow, it's not allowance is not a good word, but whether users will be able to create their blueprints directly into the DAG, into the blockchain. Yeah, but there are some business aspects that must be discussed there. Blueprints are supposed to be very efficient, so we can keep our main strategy of feeless transactions. If blueprints are not efficient, they can get like really, we might need to add gas, and that's not what we want. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of internal discussions about it, but they are more like business decisions. They're not technical decisions. So I can tell you that technically speaking, nano contracts are pretty advanced. We still have some ongoing discussions about the business aspects of it and the economics around nano contracts, how we're going to charge or not fees, and where and how, those kind of stuff. But technically speaking, about creating a nano and running a nano, interact with a nano, using our code, it's all set and working.
Right. So like I picture here building a construction site and having to actually make brick by brick, right? And making just all that construction process slow and clunky and inefficient. So when I think of nano contracts and I think of blueprints as those bricks, and we're giving people eventually those bricks that they'll be able to build with, and be super exciting to start to see what people will do with it. But yeah, that was
That's a very good analogy. And those bricks, they are very well tested, and people can trust them. They don't have like to check the codes all the time, just like they have to do in EVMs. So I guess that's one of the most important advantages when it think about business. Many companies or that we talk to, they have like a hard time to audit their codes to be sure that the code's safe, that it's working, and they need a very specialized engineers to develop that code. So in our case, we're looking for a different way of doing things, a different way of doing smart contracts. So after a blueprint is audited on our ends or by the community or by anyone, anyone can use it without having to audit the code because they know what's running there. They just have to set the configurations, like they just have to set up the settings of the nano contracts and they will work correctly. That's how we believe that the adoption might happen. I like to make an analogy with databases. There are a lot of computer engineers and developers that uses databases every day. And they don't have to be an expert in databases. They know SQL language, so they can do SQL queries or NoSQL queries. So they know how to interact with the database, but they don't have to understand the engine of database. And when you go to an EVM compatible machine, you have to understand how it works. Otherwise, it's not safe to develop there. So companies, they need like very specialized experts into blockchain in order to get like something safe. And we'll provide a different way. We'll provide like a proof, a safe and tested and well-tested machine or library or codes that they can use out of the box so their developers can interact with it. But they don't have to be experts into blockchain. I guess that's where it's very different from other blockchains, other solutions.
Would you say the underlying focus is accessibility?
I'd say so. Accessibility mostly for developers and, of course, for users as well. But I'd say that the critical point is with the developers and with the companies. But yes, definitely accessibility.
So, Marcelo, we have two underlying questions here regarding nano contracts. Testnet has come out, the team has been able to play with it. What have you learned from it in this time?
Yeah, that's we learned a lot. So let me try to explain a bit of what we're doing. We're working on the foundation of nano contracts. We're not really developing like many blueprints because after the foundation is, I'll explain the foundation, but after the foundation is done, it's finished. We can build as many blueprints as we want. So the whole testing now is more about the how the blueprints and the nano contracts will go into the DAG of transactions, so into the blockchain itself, how it plays with the consensus algorithm. So we've been testing different kinds of attacks that might happen and confirming that everything works as expected, so the attack doesn't work. And we are also, our network is a UTXO network. I'm sorry about the technical terms, but that's a model for transactions. And the nano contracts, they must be, it's very hard to do, and I think it's not worth trying to do a smart contract system, so a more elaborate kind of software into the blockchain, into UTXO in the UTXO model. So we are using the account-based model. So we are also testing how the two work together. So we have UTXO playing together with account-based model. So we have to have deposits into the account-based withdrawals, and we are testing all these parts, which are, let's call it the foundation of nano contracts. How the start system works, how these transactions propagates through the network to the peer-to-peer network and goes into the consensus and gets confirmed. We are also testing all the APIs that allows wallets and use cases to access and to interplay with nano contracts. And we are also testing the wallets themselves. What's the best and the most, the best interface and the best experience for users? How do they want to look at things? What's the best way to present things? And also we are building tools for the use cases, because a person will use a wallet in a cell phone or in the computer, but the use cases, they need a piece of software, robots to do the things. So we have the headless wallet for that. So we're also testing how the headless wallets will work with Nano contracts, how they will interact with the full nodes, so use cases can confirm and can do whatever kind of integration they need. So these are the kind of tests that we're running right now. We need a network to do this because we need to understand how transactions propagate through the network, how long it takes, is it efficient enough, is it fast enough. So those are, so we're working on the foundation.
Hmm.
After that, we can build as many blueprints as we want on top of it.
Right.
The blueprints were developed to be easy to be developed. So that's not exactly what we're doing. Of course, we have 1, 2 blueprints that we're using more, but it's not about the blueprints themselves. It's about the foundation. Does it make sense?
Yeah, and we saw this. Yeah, when you had the MIT lecture covering the UTXO model, the anatomy of a transaction. It's a complex thing that you were trying to simplify there for the understanding of the audience.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Exactly.
But it's important for the team to be able to interact with this first phase of the test net of nano contracts and to be able to see if there's anything there that may have been missed and that it integrates really well with the architecture of the blockchain and the DAG, and that it also integrates really well with the wallet, and that it when the test net, let's say, is ready for the next phase, for when the people are going to be able to test it themselves and it's public, that works smoothly as well. So it's broken down by phases, and that's why it's so important, right? For the team to be able to test these things out.
Yeah, exactly. It must work like smoothly and efficiently. The wallets cannot take like longer to load. When you look at one people, of course they will have what 100 transactions, 200 transactions. Maybe a heavy trader or a heavy user might have like thousands of transactions. But when you look at the use cases, they have like millions of transactions. So things must be very efficient. We've been testing those kind of stuff, and yeah, I mean those are like the and you're talking about the MIT lecture. That's exactly what I covered there. It was like a whole conversation, maybe a 2 hour conversation about a 1 hour and a half conversation about UTXO, and we haven't touched account based there. So there's account based, and in our case, they're going together. And there's one thing that is also happening a lot, which is really good, is that we are training our own engineering team to understand the internals, the very internals of nano contracts. So so we have like more people working, thinking, and helping in the development. So we are also working on like educational material internally. It might be useful when we after it's launched, because there will be
Oh,
all kind of people. There will be people that would like to use it, people who'd like to understand it basically, and people who'd like to deeply understand it. So we also have this kind of material being worked on. So yeah, that's what we've been doing with nanos right now. We are pretty advanced in the technology. It's been working nicely. We still have tests to run. We still have like things to improve. That's why we're still working on it. But yeah, everything runs very nicely, and yeah, I think those are the most important things that we learned. We use the APIs, we use nanos, we you know we learn a lot when you take an idea from paper to code.
mm.
Some things works better than we expected, but some things don't, and then we have to change everything and update the docs, and this is like a good cycle of learning and development, and that's what we did mostly. We still do it, but now things are getting more stable, more and more stable.
So we did say two questions in the beginning. So
Yeah.
yes, if we're breaking it down by phases, and let's say this first interaction with the team with the test net is phase one. Phase two would be the public being able to interact with it. Then that leads to the question: when nano?
I knew it. I knew it. Yeah. I mean, I don't like to work with dates, even though internally we do have everything. We have dates, we have roadmaps, we have ETAs for everything. They're not public. They put this kind of things. They put a lot of pressure on our development team, and I want everyone to be in a safe environment to say, "Oh no, 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 I have a concern. Let's not." to launch it now. So everyone needs to be safe to do it. But yeah, when Nano, I'd say that the very clear next step is that everything after everything is stable and we have everything working nicely and stable, to put it into a public network. I think that's the very next step. A public testnet. It initially it wouldn't be our testnet; it would be like a separate testnet, but it would be public, so everyone can enable it in their wallets, and we'll be able to interact with it. The next step would be to go maybe to merge and have just one testnet with everything with nanos available, and then everyone will be using it as they wish, and retesting it with us, the whole community. And now you have like exchanges, miners, the whole ecosystem will be using and learning about it and discussing it with us. And then finally, the last step, that's the launch, would be to activate it into the mainnet. And why am I calling it activating? Because at this point, the code will be public, the code will be fully developed, and what changed from the testnet to the mainnet is a flag: enable, disable. So the next step is to enable into mainnet and let it live. So those are like the next steps. So just for a short answer, to go move from, we are developing the foundation, finishing the work on the foundation, and then the next step would be to go to a public testnet, separate testnet. Then merge the testnets, merge them to have just one testnet. Now we are in the Gulf. We'll go to the next testnet, and then there will be like the code will be done. Everything will be finished except by a flag, which will disable. Nano will be disabled in mainnet, and then we can switch the flag, and mainnet will go live. And then when we're going to do this, I think that's a conversation with the whole ecosystem. We need to have exchanges agreeing. We need to have the miners. We need to have like different kinds, and then otherwise there's a risk of a fork or something like this. We don't want this. When Ethereum did the merge, it was the same. They had the whole ecosystem doing the thing. It's the same thing. So our goal is to go up to the one code and just a flag. We need to just to switch the flag, to change the switch, to enable it, and it's enabled. And that's the point where we're going to discuss the date. Then we have a very clear date.
Well, it sounds to me like it's really close. So
Ah, I don't want to touch it.
that's subjective, right?
Yeah.
No, I really loved your explanation because it gives a much more thorough understanding of what goes on behind that process, and how important it is to look at the attention to details, right, and make sure that everything runs really nicely as it should. So thank you for that answer.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And it's really good that our team's growing, because now I can put more and more time into nanos. During the first year and a half, maybe 2 years of Hathor, there were so many things happening everywhere in mining in different areas that we couldn't really put time into nanos. It was like we had to deprioritize it, but now it's prioritized because now we have people working on other things, and we have more time to put in this. So I'm very happy with the development, and I'm very happy to where we are and with the future. Very excited about the future.
And it's important to make those decisions at the right time, right? It's to adapt, to what's happening along the developing process. So I actually really strongly agree that it's good to make those little course corrections, or things along the way, but the underlying priority is that it works really well and that it's well tested before it comes
Yeah,
out.
yeah. One day I'll write a book about the whole experience of the last 3, 4 years. It's amazing. I've never thought that it would be like this, and I loved it, and it's really nice. But not today.
I'm hoping to get a signed copy.
You will. Agreed. I
Fantastic.
promise.
Awesome. Marcelo, you're a developer and you're building for developers.
Yeah.
So, under that perspective, what would you say are the most important features or tools that the community of developers could build on Hathor? And how will Hathor increase its developer community? How are we catering towards developers and breaking down barriers for them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, I'm a developer myself. The whole engineering team of Hathor's engineering team is working to make like blockchain development really easy. And I guess that's how the growth will happen. The developers, they will spread the word. It's when it's easy to do, when it's something that the whole point, I think, is about to reduce the entry barrier of development. I'm a developer myself, but I'm not like an Oracle expert. I'm not like a Postgres expert. I know how the database works. I know part of their internals, but I've never gone there and checked the codes, like the MySQL codes or MariaDB codes. But I can use it very well, and a lot of engineers, they use it. We use it all the time. That's how we can build complex solutions. We build on top of other technologies. So, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with Hathor. We're trying to add blockchain as another brick for the engineers to use when they're building things. That's like a package that they don't have to fully understand the engine. They just have to have some basic understanding, and they can interact with it in a very efficient and very easy way. And after all the engineers that have already used Hathor, they give me the same feedback. Wow, it's extremely easy, and they spread the word. I think that's one very organic way of growing, and that's a very good way, in fact, because the word's a very strong way of spreading, and the knowledge of Hathor for communities, for developers. And also, there's another way there that's very important. When companies start to build on Hathor, their engineering team will develop. We need to learn Hathor. We need to interact with Hathor all the time. And when this happens, we reach like a broader range of developers, the developers that are in the industries, because there are developers focused on the financial sector, there are developers focused on the real estate sector, there are developers on the supply chain. These guys, they are very specialized into their business. Even though they are developers, they understand a lot about their business. And these guys, they need another tool. They don't need something that's complex to learn. They don't need another whole computing structure to learn. They need like a tool that they know what's used for, why it's useful, and they know that it's easy and that it's cheap to develop there. So they can build projects without like very huge budgets. That's so companies will start to use Hathor because it's easy, it's cheap, it works very efficiently, and when they don't have to budget, they don't have to have a big budget to develop POCs or production level. And just as an example, tokenizadora is a great example of that. You know, the Brazilian Security Exchange Commission approved tokenizadora to run on top of Hathor, and they did it, and they are running now. They were up and running. They had their first proof of concept running in less than a month. And they are huge. They're a huge structure. And then they are running, and they are so far, they are the only one from the Brazilian that were authorized by the Brazilian Securities Commission to get their project up and running. All the others that chose other blockchains, they are still developing their technologies. They're still fighting with the technology, in my perspective, because the technology is not like something that you can just get and use. It's something that you need very specialized engineers. You need experts. Otherwise, if you do something wrong, the whole thing will fall down. So in Hathor, that's different. So that's, I don't know if it completely answers your question. I hope it does. But yeah, on one way, spreading the word, and engineers will do it very easily. You know, in schools, when someone find out some good tool, they tell everyone, hey, use this, try this, because it's easy to do. And on the other perspective, from the companies, because it's a wise way to spend their budgets, so they can run experiments with blockchains, and they can use their current development team. They don't need like a new blockchain team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, actually, if I'm comparing um, just for an example, for the average person, it's like all these design softwares for like they were made by designers. So you get in there and you see hundreds of different little brushes and tools and things, and there's a very long learning curve. You have to take a course or something to be able to learn that type of stuff. So it kind of sets a barrier for the average person that wants to learn how to make a logo, a simple sketch or something. So, new software developers are understanding that, and they're simplifying it, and they're giving people what they need to be able to get started. So in that similar way, Hathor is there to provide that simplicity in the solution. So yeah, you covered the.
Yeah, exactly. They already have a lot of building blocks. They have like load balancers, they have caching systems, they have SQL databases, no SQL databases. They have like all kind of blocks. Hathor is another block there for the enterprises to build on top of.
So a lot of people ask me why I came to work with Hathor. And my answer is that the majority of blockchains out there are building for the sake of growth, just building for the sake of growth. So when you're doing that, when you're just building for the sake of growth, you're not really planning on the user experience. You're not really planning on how people are going to be engaged in interacting with your technology. And I think that's the underlying importance of a blockchain, right? To be able to be used in the real world. Institutional adoption is by far, for me personally, a big metric to see whether or not this technology can incorporate itself into not just the real world economy, but also the real world industry, right? So this subject comes up all the time about TVL. A lot of people use it as a singular metric to see whether or not a blockchain is being adopted or not. And personally, I don't think that is a metric to follow. I think it's more about institutional adoption. But I want to know your opinion. What's a good metric to follow for Hathor to know whether or not we're in the right direction?
Yeah, I agree. The TVL, the total value locked, I think it's a very well known and used metric and to evaluate the value or to evaluate the growth of a project. But usually, I guess for Hathor, it doesn't make sense because on one side, we are a proof of work network. Just like Bitcoin, I guess it doesn't make sense to talk about the TVL of Bitcoin. So you can talk about the hash rate. So how safe the network is. That's a good metric for Hathor. It's the same as saying that how much miners have adopted the network. That's a metric for adoption of miners, the hash rate. So I think on one side for Hathor, hash rate is a good metric. It measures how much the miners, so a very important part of the community that keeps the network safe, have adopted it. Just like for Bitcoin. TVL is more like for use cases or proof of stake projects because there it makes sense to talk about the value locked because in order to keep the network working they need to have locked tokens to do the staking to keep the network going, or some projects they do have like staking systems or liquidity pools where they have like locked tokens to give liquidity. I think those are like common metrics that people use for those projects. I don't think they are important for Hathor. Maybe to evaluate a project that's running on top of Hathor, but not the network or the ATTR token directly. So on one end, hash rate is a good metric of miner adoption, mining adoption, and also of how safe the network is. That's one side, and the other side, it's I'd say industry adoption. So how companies are using the technology to build, not to build necessarily, but to be part of their business models and to bring value for their communities. So,
Mhm.
for instance, I think that Tokenizadora is an amazing example of a good, very good project because it's the first STO in Brazil authorized by the CVM. There are real money. There are more than I don't want to say a wrong number here, but there are more than $30 million running on top of it, running on Tokenizadora right now, authorized by the Brazilian Security Exchange Commission. So I think it's amazing. It brings a lot of value because it's way more than just like the tokens and the value of the tokens. Imagine how much things were discussed and how many approvals were necessary to have the Brazilian Security Exchange Commission authorizing the use of it. So it's more, it's the whole ecosystem would have to learn about Hathor, would have to test it, would have to approve it, would have to give green lights. So I think this is like a better metric adoption
Hmm.
from companies that are using it for their customers,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I think that's a better metric for when we try to measure the growth of a platform. And I see Hathor as a platform. It's a blockchain platform where companies can build on top of it.
Hmm.
I think this is very interesting and the most important metric when I look at Hathor. And I'd say I'd use the same metric for any layer one or platform, blockchain platform. It's more like really useful things. How much companies are using it to deliver goods and services in the real world. That's my point.
And helping them on the consultancy side for that integration is super fundamental as well in that process because yeah, if you go, to the biggest option, you may not have that, that closeness with the team to be able to speak about your solutions and seek how to make it work in the best way, right?
Yeah, yeah, and usually that's quite interesting. My example here would be with Linux. Linux is a great and amazing open source project. I'm a huge fan. I use it all the time. We use it even if you don't know that you're using it. It's everywhere. And but the industry adoption came after, in my perspective, after Red Hat. They are the bridge between the open source projects and real use of Linux. So Red Hat is a very important player in that ecosystem, and I think that's the same for us. That's where Hathor Labs comes into play. We are like the bridge between the open source network, the open source projects, and the companies, but there might be many other bridges. Yeah, they need like support. They need like something that is safe to use, that's easy to use. You see, I'll give an example. Many people they question, oh, why are these companies still using Java or any other not so modern language? And a very quick answer is that because it's safe. They have engineers, they have people. So this all these things comes into play when we were discussing about adoption. And definitely with Hathor, they have like access to our development team, to the core team, to us. I myself, I'm involved in many different use cases. So yeah, that's really good for the companies.
See, I knew we were going to have such a great conversation here. I was really pleased when I heard you were going to, yeah, you had a little bit of time extra here to come on Leadership Forum. And the community is always excited when they see you around there, answering questions and stuff. Obviously, we would love to be there 24/7, but things have to continue their progress and we have to keep building. But a lot of the community members, I guess, are wondering or would love to know, like, what are you spending most of your time on these days? When you're not directly available to be in the chats. But what are you keeping yourself busy with?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely my pleasure to be here talking to you and talking to the community at the same time, and the companies and everyone that is interested, that has any kind of interest in Hathor. Hathor is like a hot topic for me. I love talking about Hathor. I talk about Hathor all the time. It's basically the thing that I do most. I talk with friends. I talk with family. Um, it's like something that it's been on my mind for a long, long time. So I really like to talk about it. Well, I've been spending my time in Hathor managing our team, make reviewing codes. Not I've been developing Nano. That's one thing, but we have like many different fronts. We have wallets, we have mining tools, we have indexes. We have a lot set of tools, and things must be reviewed so things are safe. It's part of my job to review codes a lot, to review designs when new things will be built. Not necessarily I'm coding it, but I'm reviewing the design, how it's going to be built, all the technical aspects of them. So and planning our engineering. You have a lot of planning happening. That's one part of the work. So to plan, to manage our engineering team, to hire people, interviewing, all the hiring process is a very time-consuming task because we need to bring like the best people available, and we need to find them and convince them to get and come to work with us. So that's part of the work here. There's another side of the work that I also put a lot of effort on, which is strategy, Hathor strategy. And we're not directly talking about the technology, but how we're going to crack and join and get what we didn't get yet. We haven't gotten yet. So how we can grow, how we can speed up growth, how we can, which kind of project or company we're going to approach next. So a lot of strategy regarding the blockchain, a lot of strategy regarding business development, ecosystem development, and doing presentations for companies and people interested, groups of people interested in Hathor. So if you our viewer here works in a company and want to have a presentation about Hathor, talk to us. It'd be my pleasure to be there. I'm if they want to if you're a part of a blockchain club and you want to have like projects about Hathor there, talk to us. We'll help you there. If you have a group of friends who does things on blockchain, talk to us. So internally, I review our education material as well. So and these times they consume a lot of time. Writing, reviewing, that's a big part of my day, and discuss our strategy, how the market's moving. So, for instance, right now, Ethereum moved for proof of stake. How does it affect us? Is there anything that we have to change because of this move? Ethereum is promising to scale up. They haven't yet, but they're promising to do it. How does it affect us? How does other projects affect us? Because they are constantly moving and improving their technology. And what do we have to do to grow in the direction that we want, to bring more adoption, to bring more use cases, to bring more knowledge into the network. That's a good part. I'd say that's, and I need more than I'd like to have like a magic bomb that I throw it at the floor, and then suddenly 24 hours shows up for me. It creates 24 hours for me because a whole day is not enough to have all these discussions in a deep level. And but yeah,
Yeah,
have it answered?
yeah, absolutely. Technology these days evolves at lightning speed. It used to take decades to come up with the better version of the tech, but now we're seeing it with blockchain and the crypto space as well. It evolves like at just this very rapid pace. So especially in the early days of a blockchain such as Hathor, team is super busy, right? You have to be tackling things on different fronts in different areas. And as the team expands, that gets simpler. But as things come out, like we saw with Ethereum's merge, it provokes you to adapt and to learn from what's happening. And that's a fast paced
Yeah,
scenario.
yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, and now I can the more we grow, the more we can like think as a group, and the more good people we have around us. So I'm very, very honored to be part of Hathor team. The team that we're building here is absolutely amazing. The guys, they are really, really smart. Oh my gosh. I learned so much discussing with them. It's really a blast to be part of it and to contribute a bit. To make Hathor grow even more, and to bring like companies and use cases to use our technology. What I feel is that every time that we have an opportunity to present to a company, they are amazed by what they see.
Hmm.
So we discuss a lot about how to do it better, how to do it like in a more massive way. How can we
Right.
make it happen? And that's a huge part of my day. Prepare materials, prepare things to do it. Yeah, and we have like an amazing team. I've never been so excited about the future because I feel that our team, we talk the same language, we understand each other very well, and we disagree and commit. So we have very nice, interesting, deep discussions. We don't agree on everything, but we commit to decisions that we made and we make it happen. So I'm very happy to be part of this group.
And milestones are hit as you earn them, not as you rush to them. So and the awareness starts happening on its own when people start seeing the real value of what we're building. There was very recently, an article on Cointelegraph, Brazil, and there's a section that goes like this. One of the great challenges of the Brazilian blockchain, according to Brogliato, is connectivity with other blockchain networks whose representation in the market is greater and which end up representing a barrier to the creation of bridges with other blockchains. And this is regarding Hathor's, part in the ever growing ecosystem and the ever growing usability for blockchain.
Yeah, I feel that that's a very important challenge, and I'd say that's one of the most important. So when you talk about miners, is a very important piece of it, but when you are integrated with more exchanges and you have a better ecosystem, bigger ecosystem, and I wouldn't say better. It's not about the quality of it, but it's about how big it is. So let me give an example. In order to have tokenizadora in place, up and running, we need to have like custody services because it's required. So we had to integrate with a custody house, which was amazing. It was very, very simple and easy to do, but it's something important. So now that we have a custody system, others can use it. But there are other custody companies that they don't support Hathor yet, and we're working to get them to add support for Hathor there, so other companies can use them. So when you talk about listing, that's one thing that happens, that has happened before, that an exchange says, okay, I want to do this, but I use this custody house, and then the custody house must integrate with us. And sometimes the custody house, they are busy, I don't know, and they don't even like talk to us. So yeah, building the growing the ecosystem can give like an exponential growth, because then different parts starts to play by themselves.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a huge part of our conversation about strategy. It's because to build our final goal is to get the use cases, but to get the use cases, we need the whole ecosystem. So
Exactly.
what is it exactly, and how we do to speed up integration of our technology in several places. OpenSea doesn't support NFTs created in Hathor yet, so that's another example of a missing piece for
Marketplaces.
us.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. We've seen a few community built marketplaces, but yeah, obviously we want to see that connection with bigger marketplaces and so on. But that's what's coming next. That's what's in the near
Oh
term vision.
yeah, yeah. We do have our own. Our community has created a lot of stuff, and I love them. It's really amazing what you're doing. It's wow. It's really really good, and it's a big part of our adoption. And they have all my support if they need. I've discussed with many of them about Hathor, and they have directly access to our engineering team whenever they need. Yeah, it's really good. I really love our community and the builders there. They're building really amazing stuff. Yeah, but what I meant there is that we want more. We want more marketplaces, more. We want to grow even more. It's more about reaching audience. So
Hmm.
we have Play9 creating tokens on us, which is really really good. They have their own platform. They're so big that they have their own structure. They don't want to be outside of their own platform. But mostly people would rely on marketplaces and other companies in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. And I think, like as we mentioned before, that adoption happens as soon as the tech proves to work. You know, Until it is justified by its own usability, let's say. So that's where the most of the importance is in the early stages. It's making sure it works for people.
Yeah, I think that the home market is still very young.
Mm.
Adoption is it's a tricky game. I understand that there's a lot of many networks that are growing, and we are growing as well. But I don't think that the real growth for blockchain has happened so far. I
I agree
mean,
with you.
yeah, yeah, we are the very. If you think about adoption, we are at the very, very early days of everything. It's a very young technology, a very young market. Even though it's getting more and more like it's growing more and more, it's still in that young stage, in my perspective. So we can see like NBA doing some small experiments with use of blockchain, but the financial sector, in my perspective, the industries, they are experimenting the technology, but they're not using yet. I think that it's just like the beginning of the internet. Nobody exactly knew, so everyone was trying this and that. But now we cannot live without blockchains. I think that's the future. I think I don't want to talk about dates, but in the future, everyone will be using a blockchain, even if they don't know that they're using it. That's what I think. And that's where we want to be. We want to be the providers for this. We want to be the infrastructure underneath all this technology that people will be using. So even though local adoption now might have like specific communities, I believe that the adoption will really be massive when the companies really jump into blockchain, because
Right.
they do have like huge communities. There are so many brands that whenever they do anything, they impact like hundreds of millions of people instantly.
Mm.
So whenever they use blockchain, then I believe massive adoption will happen. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we are at a very young age, and I think that's the fight to be the technology of the future, the technology that will be used by these companies in the future.
Right. It's still super early. Just ask the average person on the street what Bitcoin is and how it works. You'll get your answer.
Yeah,
But again,
exactly.
it's our job to continue to educate and simplify it, break it down, not make it so complex and complicated for people. But I think NFTs as well. We just barely scratched the surface with the usability for them. The art industry, music industry, definitely pushed forward a lot of that adoption. But we're starting to see now NFTs for traceability, NFTs for royalties, NFTs for gated community access and stuff like that, and events and so on. So there's much more, use cases that are going to come to it. So by all means, I agree 100% with you. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen anything yet. We're just on the forefront of that mass Cambrian explosion of use cases for blockchain.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you another example, just like yours. Yours is really good. Another one is just that back in the 90s, if I told you, "Hey, Andres, I'm gonna send you an email," you're gonna say, "What? Oh, a mail? No, no, an email." It was like something exotic, you know. It wasn't like the normal thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it's the opposite. If I say, "Hey, what's your mail address?" Say, "What do you mean by email?" No, no, your mail. I'm going to write you a letter. It's not the common thing. Now, email is everywhere. And it's been replaced by other technologies right now for the young people. But nowadays, if I tell you, okay, let me send you a stable coin, most of the people, they have no idea what it is. Let me, if I want to pay something, let me use HR tokens. Let me use any other stable coin to do it. Many companies, they don't even, they don't know what it is. It's not there. So there's room for, I mean, that's what I mean by, yeah, by mass adoption. We are far away from that because social changes takes time.
Right.
The
Right.
whole society needs to discuss. We need to have like, there will be laws, there will be regulation, there will be a lot of things in order to get everything in place. It takes time. Society changes are like something that is way slower, but it's happening. But that's why I believe that we are a very young stage.
Absolutely.
Sending crypto today, it's exotic. I think that in the future, if we're gonna say, "Oh, what's your routing number so I can send you some money?" You're gonna say, "What? No, no, that's my address. Just send me a crypto." But that's not true today, and it's something that changes with generation.
Hmm.
For the kids now, it's a simple thing to do. For the young now, but for more older people, it's not that easy. So that's why things takes time, but it will come eventually, and that's what we're fighting for. We want to be the technology that people is using, even though they don't know that they're using it.
Absolutely,
That's
and
the whole
it's
goal.
and it's absolutely exciting because blockchain is changing the political, social, economical paradigm of everything. So it's a big shift. So it takes time. It takes regulation. It takes incorporation. It takes
It takes experimentation. Yeah, I
it's
agree. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the future is amazing, and I'm pretty excited to see how it goes. But I'm pretty sure that the kids now, when they are adults, they will live in a different world again. As I did, the world's not the same as when I was a kid. It changed a lot. When I was born, internet was not available in Brazil, so I had my first internet access. Like I had like 12 years old. I was like way bigger than today, and it was like, what could I do in the internet? I don't know. Open the NASA website because there was nothing there in the internet at the time. It was
yeah.
like there were some chat groups, but nothing like today. Today, and we cannot live without this.
It's
Everything
amazing to see where
changed.
it's come, and
Yeah,
it will
yeah.
be even more amazing to see where it's going. Obviously, we could go on here for hours chatting, and I'd be having the best time in the world, and I'm sure you would too. But this has been a great leadership forum. I think the people in our community are just going to absolutely love hearing these conversations. They definitely loved our first one, so this is a great follow up episode. It's
Thank
been
you.
great having you, Marcelo. Super grateful for this opportunity of working together because it's exciting stuff. So it's great to see the
Yeah,
deep
thank
insight.
you very much. It was definitely my pleasure. And I hope to see you again in a future leadership forum. It'll be my pleasure to be here again.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you very
bye.
much.
Thank you.